By chance, we are here by what? Divine appointment. And as I greet our viewing audience, you tuned in at this moment because you're ready to move to the next level. This is about a deepening of our experience. I have been about spiritual community for almost 40 years. Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. That's where the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, and the synergistic mind of God arises through the energy of the individualized expression of each and every one of us. We're looking at what's right with the world. I'm honoring my spiritual teacher from the School of Ministry at the Ernest Holmes College. His name was Dr. Marcus Bach. He wrote over 30 books, and he wrote this one, What's Right with the World. And as I reread this book, energetically, I thought, he wrote this book like 40 years ago, and the truth is not a whole lot changes. And I was sharing last week that when he wrote the book and someone said, what's the name of your new book? And he said, What's Right with the World? They really felt it must be a very tiny book. That's how cynical they were. But we know when there is a vibrational match, energetically, and critical mass comes together through spiritual beings, that there's a shift. We've seen it. We've experienced it in our own personal lives. What's right with the world? Today we're looking at Mother's Day and inner child wisdom, that each of us came in to the planet as really wonder child. We're the wonder children. I have a picture of myself at 4 years old. I have it out where I can see it every single day of my life. For when I forget energetically that the universe is there to experience, I look at her because she knew she could do anything. And I have that picture out. We all have a 4-year-old wonder child that came into the planet. There were no prejudices. There was no judgment. There was no looking outside the self. It was just the being of love, the space of unconditional love. Everything else is learned. And when we come into this way of life, we bring all our old baggage with us. You notice that the birds are flying above your head. You can notice that the birds are flying above your head, but you don't need to allow them to nest there. Do we get that? You can notice it, but no nesting. And when we come into this way of life and we understand energetically that we are created in the image and likeness of God, that it is good and very good, that the inner child wisdom has never been touched by grief. It has never given offense. It has never taken offense. You look at children, and if you observe them, they get in their little squabbles and it's all a big upset. And then 30 seconds later, they're there, they're playing, they're doing their thing like nothing had ever happened. They don't hold on energetically to the things that have hurt them or upset them at the moment. Of course, the parents then are upset, and then they hold on to it and teach children lessons, amazing lessons, that we get to unlearn. Isn't that right? We get to unlearn them. And I will say that my mother had me on her 19th birthday, so it was really quite wonderful having a young mother on many, many levels. And she had one goal in life, and that was to get her kids raised. We know the two saddest things in life are having a goal and what? Not reaching it. And having a goal and reaching it. Because then we plateau out. What's next? We've got to keep creating our lives, unfolding our lives, expanding our lives. And as we expand our lives to each new level, there's an expansion. But there's also, as we're up the spiral, there's a disorientation before we're ready to go to that next level. And Dr. Marcus Bach, in his book, What's Right with the World, shares a story about a dear friend of his who lived in Beverly Hills, and he lived in a beautiful, beautiful mansion. And he said that he became very disillusioned with his life, and he said, I'm going to go back to my boyhood farm, and I'm going to revisit some of those places, trying to recapture some of that energy. And Marcus said he felt a little bit odd about it, because you can never really go back, can you? Things shift, they change, they're not the same. But his friend went back. And he related that as he went back, of course, the old farm had changed. There were changes there. There were, energetically, it wasn't the same. However, he went back down to his boyhood creek. There was a grove of trees. He looked to one side, and there was the marker of his beloved collie dog that had passed away when one of the first tractors that his father got on the property, and he went under the wheels, and he said that was his first huge disillusionment. And he saw how he had etched the name of his collie on that little marker. And he said, I stood there and it became the unforgettable of the simplicity, the energy of the creek. I put my hand in, I placed the water on my face. I was 10 years old again. I got in touch with that place of peace, of knowing that as my life unfolds, that there is an inner child wisdom. There is a place of peace that passes all understanding. What did Jesus say to his disciples when they said, they're shooing the kids away, right? Suffer the little children and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of God. And unless you become as a little child, you shall not enter in. The lion shall lie down with the lamb, and a little child shall lead them. That little child is within each of us. It is that space of wonder, of awe. It is the space that allows the energy of the universe to flow through, to feel that oneness with all of life and nature, to be in nature, to feel at one with nature. I used to live in Coronado, and I lived right on the Silver Strand and the ocean for several years and raised my daughter there. And when I would have moments, and we all have moments, I would look out my window and I would see the Point Loma Lighthouse. And it was always, and this would always be like at dawn, there was the Point Loma Lighthouse, that there is always light. And if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, we will experience that light, to remember who we are, to go within to the secret place of the Most High. That place is within us. And Jesus said, you can low here, you can low there, but the kingdom of God is within you. And when we really understand that the kingdom of God is within us, then all the things that we give our power away into the outer world do not have the same energy and the same power that they once did. And believe me, I've been in public life a long, long time. I've heard it all. Stuff comes back to me that's so bizarre that I cannot possibly relate to. And I have learned not to take it personally. If we don't have an energy charge on it, it has nothing to do with us. If we have a bit of an energy charge on it, we've got more work to do here. And so we go within to do our inner work. See, what I love about this way of life is that we can recreate our experience at any given moment. And as we recreate our experience, we shift it upward. And as we make that shift, all the things that were down here, they have no energy, no hold on us, and we have not given our power away to it. And what I know at the deepest level is that there is a power for good in the universe greater than we are, and it really is using us as we let go and let God do what God does best by means of us, to allow that inner child to come out, to play, to be authentic, to be real as a little child is. We recently had a full moon, and my daughter, my beloved daughter and grandson were staying with me after my surgery. And at this full moon, I said, we're going to do a little ritual. And when I came home from the hospital, my son-in-law had every single room filled with flowers. And then he went to my rose garden, and my roses were just blooming. So he took all those, and he had those in the house. So we collected, my little grandson and I, Tyler, we collected the rose petals, and we put them in a big basket. And I said, at our full moon ritual, we're going to speak our word for what we want. And we're going to sprinkle rose petals around. And I have a huge statue of Kuan Yin, who is the goddess of love and compassion. And we're going to speak our word. And we're going to light candles. So we lit candles, and the moon was just shining beautifully. And I spoke my word for what I wanted, as I sprinkled them and for inner wisdom and opening to the universe and my spiritual community, and each of us would go around, because there were a lot of rose petals, and so we just got to keep saying what we want. So it was Tyler, and he just turned 4 in March, and he's sprinkling his little rose petals, and he says, inner peace, love, and the monster truck show. I thought, yes, the monster truck show. Let's get a little in the worldliness in this. Love and peace and joy and aliveness and wisdom, and the monster truck show. Okay, we're going to go to the monster truck show. And he goes, and it's really noisy. But he remembers it from when he was 2. So I just thought, isn't it great that the inner child wisdom, that we can, if we're going to be in the world and not of it, let's be in the world and share the joy and the fun and the play and the aliveness. Let's realize, yes, it is about inner peace, it is about love, but it's also about other stuff. It's about joy. It's about experiencing each other. It's about going to events. It's about really acknowledging one another and to greet that presence in one another and to have fun. Joy is the most infallible sign of the presence of God. If we're not feeling joy, we're in our ego. So we get to readdress that and reframe it. And as we reframe our experience, we recreate our experience. I used to, when we lived in Coronado, sometimes I would come home and my daughter and I would get off on the wrong foot. So I said, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to knock on the door and you're going to answer the door and we're going to recreate our experience. And she said, one of the most valuable things that I ever taught her was recreating our experience. Because no matter what happens in the objective world out there, that there is that power within us to transmute this, what looks like our present reality, to a higher vibrational frequency, vibrating at the octave of love. This is why we are here. This is why we were sent to be here. And if we need to revisit the old farm in South Dakota, there is a beautiful little creek that we can place our hand in and feel the water on our face, that we can see the grove of trees and breathe in the oxygenation of those trees, that we can see the marker of a beloved pet and feel the energy of that joy and the licks on the face and the energy that we experienced as that 10-year-old. That there is an unforgettable wisdom in the reality when we knew that we could do anything, that we knew we were the 4-year-old wonder child, that as we relearn, as we address the things, the wounding, and each of us has a childhood wound, but to have the presence within us, to take that wound, and then, as the Apostle Paul said, out of my weakness I have found my perfect strength, to go back into the marketplace with that wound, with the redeeming of the energy that opened our heart to a deeper level so that we could compassionate one with the other. And it is about the love and compassion. It is about opening the heart space to realize that each and every one of us are created in the image and likeness of God. And if I don't relate to somebody, let me tell you that I can address the Christ consciousness within them, the Buddha nature, the holy I am presence, that when Moses looked at the burning bush and said, who are you, what are you? That voice answered and said, cast off your shoes, for where you stand is holy ground. That there is nothing that comes between us and our spiritual knowingness, nothing. To give our power to the outer stuff, that is not being spiritually responsible. We have to keep our eyes, our listening to a higher vibratory frequency. Be still and know that I am God. In this godliness do we live and move and have our being. That we will all have our moments, but as the birds fly around, we don't need to let them nest there. And that as we speak our word for inner peace and love and wisdom, there's always the monster truck show. There's always something out there for us to take our energy to be in the world and not of it. To realize that we can have fun. A lot of people, they hear the word religion and they just run the other way. But we're about the essence, not the form of religion. The essence, the energy, the love, the truth, the beauty. To know that this moves beyond color, race, creed, and sexual orientation because our God is a God of oneness. Do you agree? Yes. Absolutely. that moves beyond all of that to that place of peace, to that place of knowing that sometimes we need a trigger symbol, looks like a 4-year-old wonder child, to remind us of who we are when we could do anything, when we knew we could do anything, when we open the space to acknowledge that and to recognize it at the very, very deepest level. So this morning, as we come together to really look at our inner child wisdom, to forgive our parents for they know not what they do. And I just absolutely loved what Reverend Dennis shared in My Mother's Arms, that there was a time when each of us were in our mother's arms. And someone asked me last week, why do you say Father, Mother, God? And I said, because we recognize the feminine aspect of God, the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Divine Mother stands at my left side, and Divine Father stands at my right side. And I loved it when Dennis said that he shared with his mother on Gay Pride Sunday, you shared a few years ago, that on your 50th birthday, that he went to his mother and said, Mama, you need to know that I'm gay. And they're from Oklahoma, and he said, Mama just kind of thought for a moment. She said, well, son, we kind of thought something. But son, you're our son. We love you. We love you. We'll always love you. In my mother's arms. That it's unconditional. It's the love that passes all understanding. It's the energy that has always been there and always will be there. And this morning, as we come together to acknowledge that love, to acknowledge each other, just know that within each of you is inner child wisdom that has never been touched by grief. It has never taken offense nor given offense. It is the energy of life, of love, truth, and beauty, of God, whatever you conceive your God to be, whatever name you put on it. So thank you for a beautiful Mother's Day morning as we're coming together this morning to bless each other and to be in community, which I just feel so strongly about spiritual community, that together we can do so much, as Helen Keller said. Alone we do so little. So with that note, I know at the deepest level that God is our source and that we are going what? Higher yet. Where are we going? Higher yet. Where? Higher yet. And so it is. God bless you.